This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, everybody, and thanks for joining us today. This is the November 8th Missouri Evergreen Cataloging meeting. And to get started, I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that Cedar County joined us last week. Of course, the week prior, we had to kind of stop our merging and deletion of bib records. So welcome, Cedar County. I'm not exactly sure when they're going to start resource sharing, but I'm sure it will be soon enough. And for anyone who might have missed it, there was a recent webinar that was provided by Equinox regarding some of the updates that are coming with 3.7, the 3.7 Evergreen release, which I believe we'll be moving to later this year. I think we're still trying to communicate with Equinox and make sure that that is something that we'll be able to make happen. I know Shannon shared that link out to the general listserv on October 29th. But if you can't find that email, or if you're not part of that listserv for any reason, I did go ahead and include a link here in the meeting notes, so that'll go out with the PDF for today. And next, I wanted to mention that there is now a cataloging help email that we recently put together. I believe I mentioned, last meeting that we were working on this. And the email itself is cathelp@moevergreenlibraries.org. And the purpose of this email really being, if you have a question that maybe you don't think is something that needs to go out to the entire listserv, or something that you might generally just send it to me or another specific cataloger, this might be a better opportunity to direct that question to a group of people who will be able to share that load and work on answering those questions a little bit faster. So if you ever have a question, like I said, if you don't feel like it's something that would go out to the general listserv, feel free to reach out to cathelp@moevergreenlibraries.org. We're kind of speeding through the news today. Last thing on my news section here is an update from our consortium cataloger, Greg. Greg, did you have anything you wanted to share today?
Well, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
The way that the course is working up right now is that the basic level 1 tasks or level 2 tasks are finished, with the exception of a couple of training videos that I want to put together. And I'm currently working on the tasks for the level 2 right now. I spent a couple of days last week working on authorities, only to find out that we weren't going to need them. So, but that's still in there as well. The idea is that hopefully all of this cataloging training will be actually up and functional within hopefully a month, so that while we're going over winter, if you want to review any of it, or you want to make some suggestions on how it could be improved, or you want to go back and actually review some of the things, hopefully it'll all be up on the website that everybody can get to. Other than that, I'm still available if anybody has any questions or anything. I am still learning the Evergreen system too, including the new version that's coming out right now. So if anybody's got any questions or any concerns or anything for me, feel free to give me or anybody in the cataloging committee an email update, or shoot them an update or anything. I do want to tell everybody that this training that we're developing is really not meant to be stressful. It's more to give everybody kind of the same basis of knowledge, regardless if you're a trained librarian or if you're a volunteer, or if you're somewhere in between those two. It's not supposed to be stressful. And as you can see, I come across with all the, intensity of a college economics professor, really. We just want to make sure that everybody has the same level of training and the same understanding of what their responsibilities are in the catalog, with regards to not only the records you develop, but the records that everybody ends up sharing. So anyway, don't get stressed by it is basically my bottom line. I'm here to help you guys, and I'm here to make sure that everybody is doing okay. So I guess that's all I got.
Awesome. Thanks for an update, Greg. And yeah, like Greg said, the training that we're working on definitely isn't supposed to, we don't want it to feel like it's overly burdensome. Like you said, we're just trying to make sure that everyone has the same, working off the same basic understanding of how we should be working together in the catalog. Okay. And with that being said, I know there's a few things that I wanted to touch base about with the actual cataloging this month. First of those being a reminder about the separation and merging of records. So as we covered kind of throughout the past year, we have picked up a different sort of way in which we're separating and merging records. Just for anyone who might have missed it, we are no longer separating records by ISBN. Our records are going to include items of similar content. So, if something's the same title, same author, and, is within the same number of pages, and has similar sorts of illustrations or lack thereof, those things can be put together on the same record. And, for DVDs or audiobooks, if they have the same runtime, same number of discs, similar or should have the same number of discs, but same title and so on. All of that can be on the same bibliographic record, and we do have more detailed outline of what can and can't be included on a record together, and that can be found on the Missouri Evergreen website here under Member Resources, Cataloging Training Materials. And then if you scroll down, we have our guidelines for merging records. And like I mentioned, if you open that up, there's a whole section here about books, what can go together, what cannot go together. I guess the big thing being, our mass market paperbacks are something that we really want to keep separate. Fortunately, a lot of those, once those are put in that sort of format, they're generally a very different size from the original publication, and generally a very different page count as well. So just some things to keep in mind as we are working on merging things and trying to clean up our database. And again, we have a section for audiobooks that kind of specify what can and can't be included, as well as DVDs, and then just some reminders at the bottom. So if you ever need a refresher, or in case anyone missed this update, please go in and make sure that we're all up to date on how these guidelines work. And that then brings me to kind of the bigger change for the month that I wanted to talk about was our parts report. So along with the utility lists that we normally get from Rogan every month, we also added on a parts report, which was something we kind of discussed in previous meetings to help us, better address the confusion and kind of messy way that our parts are currently organized in Evergreen. So every month we should be getting a report from Rogan, and this report includes all DVDs, whether or not they do or do not have parts, or whether they should or should not have parts. So just keep that in mind. And there is a guide that I put together and emailed out to the listserv called just monthly parts report. And this kind of explains how you can open up the report, because it does come to us in a compressed file. So basically, once you download that, you really can just double click on it if you're in a Windows computer. Then from there, you can open up that CSV, that Excel file right there. And from there, what you're going to need to do is kind of do some sorting and making sure that the numbers are readable. So I do have that report here in front of me. So in Excel here, I have the report open. I'm going to first start by making sure that I can read the full barcode, because currently, as you can see, because these barcodes are really long, Excel just does this goofy thing where it kind of tries to make things more legible by truncating those numbers. So I'm going to select this entire column, and then up here, and depending on your version of Excel, it might vary exactly how it looks. But there should generally be a section where you can choose the formatting for that column. I select that, and I'm going to tell it, it's a number. And then when you select number, it usually defaults to having 2 decimal places, or 2 numbers after the decimal. And so I can adjust that by clicking on this little button here, doing that twice, and now we just have the barcode number. The other thing that you'll want to do is make sure that you're looking at just your library's stuff. So what I like to do is I just select all of the columns by clicking on the A, dragging it over to the F, and then from there, in the top right hand corner, if you're kind of on this home section, you should be able to find either you can either sort it or you can filter it. My general preference is to filter things, so I'm selecting filter, and that's kind of what the guide suggests as well. So once I click on that, you'll notice all these little drop downs under all the columns. And by doing that, we can go through and select, oops, didn't want to do that. We can select what we want to display. So under copy owning library, I'm going to want to select my own library stuff. So I'm going to click on that little down arrow. And of course, I can see the options for every library that's listed on this report. Like I said, I don't want all of that, so I'm going to deselect the select all option. I'm going to scroll down and find those trails options. So here are all my branches. I'm going to select those, and if you want to work on it branch by branch, you could select just the one. Once I have all the ones I want, I'm going to click OK. And then here we'll see all the DVDs that are listed for trails. So that's going to be more than what I want, because I'm really just wanting to focus on the ones that don't have parts, that should. So I'm going to go to this part label column. I'm going to do the same thing. Currently, it's showing all the options for all trails items in the parts that they have listed. While it's not in the scope of what I'm trying to do right now, I do see that there are a few that just have 1, 2, or 3, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I probably should eventually go back and fix those so that it's disc 1, disc 2, as our part guidelines kind of tell us. But for the sake of what we're doing now, I'm gonna skip on that and just deselect the select all option so I can see my blanks. And to do that, I do have to go down and actually select one that says blanks. Okay, so now that my report is just showing trail stuff and stuff that the part label is blank. Obviously, we're seeing, just by looking at it, a lot of these are one video disc. Don't really need to mess with that. Those one video discs, they don't need parts, so those can be ignored. You could go through the list and select the ones individually that you need to work with. I'm going to make my life a little bit easier by scrolling to the top. And under this description option, I'm not going to filter it by selecting any of these options, but I can sort it from here. So once on that drop-down menu at the very top, I can sort A to Z or sort Z to A. I'm going to do Z to A so that any number larger than 1 is going to go to the top, so I can ignore all the ones at the bottom. So once I do that, you'll see I have a number of items up here, like this one, Ally McBeal, the complete second season, has 6 video discs and no part. So that's obviously something I'm going to have to go in and look at and see what I need to do with that. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. A lot of that, I think most of that is included in the guide I put together and emailed out. So that should help you at least navigate how to get that information out of our report. Fortunately or unfortunately, it was kind of complicated. Our needs are kind of complicated in this specific instance. So far, this is kind of the best that I was able to work out with Rogan. But if anyone has better ideas about how we could get to this information, I'm all ears. Feel free to email me or let me know about specific struggles, and we might be able to see if there's a workaround. But at this time, I think the report does a pretty good job of capturing those needs. And based off what I can see here, how many things do I need to work on? Yeah, I have at least 100 things on my list that I need to go through. And while I was working on this previously, I also received an email from Allison at Cass County who had noticed something kind of funny. So I want to mention that as well as we're going through it. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Evergreen to show what I'm talking about. So this particular barcode that I have pulled up, this is my Brady Bunch, the complete series, did show up on my report initially. So the report telling us things that don't have part labels. The odd thing is, though, once I put it in Evergreen, I was able to see that this item apparently has a part label of some sort. So after working with Rogan and kind of looking at the record itself, we discovered that if I go to that record itself and look at monograph parts, the part label that is showing on the item isn't on this record. So long story short, some of these items on the record have a part label that's not attached to their record.
Valerie,
And so if you remember
you
a while
hit the
back when
door,
we
please?
did our deduplication project, we found that this was an issue when we had merged some DVD records and then unmerged them. So at the time when we discovered that, we had sent out an email identifying how to solve this problem. Basically, the idea is you have to delete the monograph parts from this record and the record that the part is on itself. How do you... Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't remember how we were able to identify the other record. Anyway, so just know, I guess, that the report is going to have some that will appear blank. You'll look them up in here and they do have parts, but those do need action as well, is what I'm trying to get across. So these parts, those items are a little bit more difficult to deal with because, again, the monograph part has to be deleted and re-added. So I might need to put together some more clear guidance on how to do that and how to locate both records. But just know that as you're working through those that truly have no part, you might come across some of these in the meantime, and that eventually these do need to be corrected as well. Otherwise, as you're coming across and you just come across an item that has no part label, you should be able to go in here, load those items into item status, and you can, edit call numbers of items. And then you should be able to select that part label from here if there is an existing one. Otherwise, you can go to the bib record. I think actually you should be able to type one in here, and it should save with save and exit. But since I don't have this one, I haven't completely looked at this one, I don't want to save that. Okay. Just checking the chat. It doesn't look like I have any questions yet. Does anybody have any questions about that? I know that was a lot of information, and I know we've had a little bit of time to look at the guide I'd sent out, and that, the information about the parts being kind of mixed up on some of those bib records is also a little bit confusing, and I hope to put together some more clear guidance on what to do with that. Okay. Well, if there aren't any questions about the parts report or separating records, I think that's all I had kind of for training today. Does anybody have any questions or anything else that they want to bring up at this time? Oh, thank you, Allison. Allison reminded me that it might be helpful for everyone to know where the information is for the correct language for our parts. So if you're going through your parts and want to make sure that everything is formatted correctly or you're using the correct language, if you go to member resources, cataloging training materials, we do have guidance on how to name those part labels, and that can be found in the common language for parts for magazines, DVDs, and books. So if you click on that, It will give you guidance on how to name those parts for your magazines, books, and DVDs. And specifically, as the report is primarily looking at the DVDs, this part will probably be the most helpful to you. Thanks, Allison. Okay, well, if there is nothing else, then I guess we can end the meeting for today. Thank you all for joining us. And, in case you forgot, please be sure to enter in your name and your library in the chat so that you get included in the attendance. Awesome. Thank you, everybody, and have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, Nate.